Yes, calling the meeting to order as well.
That being said, everybody please stand, say the pledge, afterwards say a prayer. Rick, would you lead us in a pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, please say a prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this day asking your blessings and your guidance, knowing how weak we are. We do need your guidance, Lord. We pray for those people in the Ukraine who are suffering from the ravages of war. We ask that you bless those who serve us and protect us. Bless us as we proceed this meeting. In his precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Again, would you want to take over with your verse?
Sure. Okay, so the first order of business we have is redevelopment appointment. We had talked about that, I think briefly, about a redevelopment appointment that we had previously appointed Gary Nail, or Scott Nail. Scott Nail. And he is no longer serving in that capacity, and I would be interested in serving on that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, call for a vote. Raise your right hand. All those in favor? Okay, passes. What is that? Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting from January? Okay. Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Michelle, is Brent planning to be here this morning? Okay. All right, well, we'll move on to the next order of business. Let me just pull it up. Okay, next we'll move on to additional appropriations and salary ordinance amendment. Michelle, do we want to have Myra come up first?
Yeah.
Alright, you all should have each received copies of the salary ordinance as well as the additional appropriation. And Myra, you'll be talking about the salary ordinance, is that right?
I will, yes.
Go ahead.
Last summer, I approached the Washington County Commissioners and I asked permission to apply for Department of Corrections grant to obtain the community corrections in our county. That was awarded. I applied for the grant, it was awarded. We started Washington County Community Corrections out of my office January 1. So as part of that grant, I had 2 salaries that were awarded, and so I need now to get the permission to appropriations into the salary ordinance. The first was for a case manager. We have found a case manager. There's still some issues that we're trying to address, but her salary for the year would be $38,150.70. I had requested $40,000 be awarded by that grant, which was granted. So the grant will cover that whole salary. The other line item for a salary I had in the grant was for a part-time administrative assistant. The idea was I would continue to use one of my administrative assistants I currently have for probation and just pay her a stipend for all the extra work she does report-wise. So I had requested $20,000 be granted for that. I am looking at paying her a stipend of $750 each pay. Of course, we're already into the year, so it won't be the full amount paid, but we will start that next payroll.
Okay, any questions from the council for Myra?
Have you already hired someone? We have hired somebody for the case manager position. There's still some issues. Hopefully we're going to get those addressed. so that she starts soon.
My first one would be in regards to allowing there to be like a supplement for the existing staff member. Have we done that in the past? And is that something that's, okay. Just wanted to make sure that we've done that and it's not something that's new. Any other questions from the council? Michelle, do we need a motion?
Yes.
And can we make that today?
Yes.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, Karen makes a motion to approve the salary ordinance.
Second.
Okay. Second by Rondell. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we also have some additional appropriations that you each were sent in advance. Michelle, do you want these individually?
That would be fine. Did you want to do this other salary ordinance amendment real quick, the one on the Veterans Affairs?
That work? Okay.
So they're going half-time. I'll make a motion to approve the salary ordinance for that.
We go from full-time to half-time or part-time?
Right.
I'll second.
Second from Preston. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. All right, with that, we'll move on to the additional appropriations. Okay, so the first one we have is for Kim Bridge, and this is for Bridge 105 reimbursement from the state to finish up the project in the amount of $85,000. Are there any questions on this additional appropriation? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion from Bubba, second from Preston. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. All right, next additional appropriation is for out of the Riverboat Revenue Fund, and this is for the flooring for the main floor of the courthouse in the amount of $45,000. Any questions about this one in particular? We each did receive a letter from the courthouse staff expressing their gratitude to repaint their offices, and everyone is repainting their offices right now. And they're really excited about how this is building employee morale, and they're enjoying the process. This quote is to install engineered hardwood flooring in the first floor offices, and the quote is $45,000.
Yeah, I just had one comment about that.
Okay.
We made a commitment probably in 2015 to use riverboat money to improve the courthouse, starting with the roof, and we're working now on certain things. Of course, a lot of work's been done already, but I think the windows might be the major one after where we're at now. Am I right or wrong there?
Right.
So I just want to make sure that we as a council still have a commitment to this strategy that we laid out 5 years ago about using riverboat monies to bring the courthouse back up and give us, well, at that point in time, we was talking about a 20 to 25 year life at that time, which we're about 5 years, 6, 7 years in. So I just want to make sure we're all still in tune with that whole process, and yeah, I'm in total agreement with doing the flooring. So I just want to make sure we understand that we're still committing funds for courthouse use down the road. That statement's just for the minutes, but.
Thank you, Ben.
Now, this flooring, is this gonna be the same flooring that's in Howard's office?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking that we talked about. It's very nice.
It is. I mean, no question. Carpet don't hold up.
What?
Carpet don't hold up.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion for the additional appropriation of $45,000 from riverboat revenue for the flooring in the courthouse.
So moved.
Okay, I'll take that from Preston. Rondell, do you want a second? Or you want to do that? Second, okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries.
If I may, ma'am, I would like to say something in regards to the renovation of the courthouse, generally speaking. You know, we all sit here and we appropriate money to do this and that, and 99% of it is hired out. We were blessed last year and the year before to have a member of the community, Chris Bundy, do all the painting with some volunteer help. And it looks very nice, and we're very proud of our courthouse. But I would like to say something about the ladies who work in this courthouse, and you men too. The amount of time that they have donated in painting their own offices and helping with others, it really makes me feel very, very proud to be a part of this county. And they've given of their own time without any additional pay, and I want to thank them. They know who they are.
Thank you. Let's hold off on this other additional appropriation for the art funds. I know we'll have some questions on that. So with that, Brent, would you like to come up and we'll talk about the officer update?
Basically, just to give you an update on the officer situation in our department. I think everybody probably recalls last January, we lost one of our officers who was our K-9 officer at the Sheriff's Department. He chose to seek other employment. Less than a month later, we lost our narcotics officer at the department to another police agency. And then in July, we lost a third officer to another police agency right out of the academy. I think, everybody here agrees that public safety is a huge issue and it's a big concern. And I appreciate everything that the council did last year to partner with the Sheriff's Department to allow us to hire 3 more deputies on the department. We were struggling we were struggling a lot last year to respond to calls and things. We were a 13-man department last year. We have been a 13-man department, counting the sheriff, for several years now. And we were short 4 officers last year. We also had a female officer on the department that was on light duty because she was expecting. She'll be coming back here shortly. So we were down to 9 officers trying to cover 24/7 a county the size of Washington County, which everybody knows is the 7th largest county area-wise in the state. That's a large county to try to cover with only 9 people. There was a lot of days where I only had 1 officer on the road, or at the most 2 officers on the road, and we were getting a lot of complaints about response time, which is understandable. If you have a domestic, that's usually what they say statistically is your biggest cop killer is responding to domestics and things like that. So when we do respond to domestics, it requires 2 officers to go. And when you send the only 2 that you have, that leaves nobody else to answer calls. And so we were receiving a lot of complaints about not responding to calls in timely manners and things. And cases were not being investigated because our officers were running from call to call to call. So we did replace those 3 officers that left the department. We hired Gavin Hurst and Dustin Pridemore. They graduated from the academy in September. They went on the field training officer program and did the ride along for a while until they go out on their own. In the meantime, we hired Dawson Easterday to replace the 3rd officer. He went to the academy and he graduated in December. Because of some of the other things that you all put into place, such as an incentive to pay officers a little bonus to come to our department that already had the academy, which I don't know that it's ever happened that we've been able to hire officers from other departments. It's very rare that you do. Normally, Washington County is a stepping stone. And I think, as I told you back around July when we were discussing this. It cost approximately $13,000 just for salary alone to pay an officer while he's at the academy. And I said that's a lot of money to pay just in salary alone to turn around and lose somebody, that we should do more to retain our people. And you guys did a great job in offering suggestions and agreeing that we need to do something to retain our people. And we got the salary up to where it's competitive, I think, with the surrounding counties. Instead of being one of the lowest paid counties, we're not the highest paid, but we are right smack in the middle there. There's only 3 counties that make more money than us, and it's understandable. One of them has Riverboat, and the other one's Carson, Floyd County, and that's kind of understandable. Again, I asked Dennis Stampowski, she is on the number cruncher at the Sheriff's Department that takes care of our record management system, and she was averaging the numbers for me last night. And in 2019, the Sheriff's Department received 18,267 calls for service. A year later, in 2020, another 18,881 calls for service. That averages out to about 18,500 calls a year for service. That's a little over 50 calls a day for the Sheriff's Department to respond to. In 2021, last year, we had 19,363 calls for service. And we managed to do that with only 9 officers on the department, but it stretched us very thin. It stressed people out. We were doing very good to keep our head above water. And so again, I appreciate everything that the council has done. I'm getting excited about this. We've got one more officer that's been hired, Haley Opatowski. She is in week number 6 at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, a satellite academy down in Jeffersonville. They've extended that academy to 16 weeks now, so we've got about another 10 weeks to get her through, and then we'll have her, won't stay on the road, but she'll be in the field training program. So we're still looking at probably about April to May before we get everybody through the academy, through the field training program, and everybody on the road. But we are already starting to see some relief there at the Sheriff's Department because of the young guys that came in here with me today. Several of those guys have already been through the program. They're on their own. 2 of these officers that we hired already had the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy training. So again, that saved us roughly a minimum of $26,000 just on salary that we didn't have to pay while they were at the academy. So that was, an awesome savings there for the county to save that kind of money. And again, the public was calling with problems in problem areas and things, and we always like to try to respond to those things and be able to help out. I was telling people, it's kind of hard to do extra patrols in areas and things when we don't have the manpower to do that with, and now we do. Now we've got the manpower to be able to do some traffic enforcement, things like that, because we did go out and purchase radar equipment for all the police cars to do traffic enforcement. There are times and places for that, and now that I have enough officers on the department, we can start doing those things. Brad Noggle with my department has been promoted to a detective spot. They're on my department. He's been a detective for a little while now. But because we were short-staffed, we couldn't use him in the capacity as a detective. He's wearing a uniform and working the road every day just to answer calls. Now that we are getting some relief from some of these new officers coming in and things, we've moved Brad to day shift. He's still wearing a uniform, but it's not going to be long before we can get Brad where he can be a full-time detective and start investigating the property crimes and things and making a real impact on that. When our narcotics officer left, we have not been able to replace him. Obviously, when we only had 9 officers responding to calls, we don't have somebody that can focus exclusively on drugs. As soon as we get to a full staff, we plan to promote someone to our drug detective there at our department and make them a full-time drug officer to hopefully make a bigger impact. I think if you look in the newspaper each week, you'll see there's quite a few pictures on Mugshot Monday. We are still making plenty of drug arrests, just probably not as many as we could be if we had a full-time drug officer. So again, I'm excited that we've got some help on the way. We're going to be able to better serve the public now because of the decisions that the council made to partner with us to hire those 3 new officers. And again, we've hired some great guys. I'm excited about what they bring to the table. And again, I brought them with me today so I could introduce those guys to you. And if you've got any questions for those guys, you're welcome to ask them. I told them that they would have to prepare a speech, but I didn't tell them that until this morning. It kind of made me cause a little bit of panic, but I know they're not going to give me any speeches. But if you guys would come forward,
Yes, please.
I'd like to introduce my new deputy so you guys have an idea who they are. We are putting together a department calendar for the department, and we've got businesses to sponsor our calendars out there in the public so that people can be a little more familiar with our guys. A couple of these guys are not from Washington County, so you may or may not know them, but on the far right over here is Dustin Pridemore. You got Dawson Easterday, Devin Hopkins, Paul Riley, and Gavin Hurst. And again, I appreciate what you guys have done to help us out on the department. We've got a young crew here that's energetic, they're fired up, and they're ready to go. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
Well, I'm just really grateful for the update. This is something that we were all very intentional about. We all prioritize public safety, and I know we worked really closely to develop a plan that we wanted to be impactful and not just put a Band-Aid on the issue that we were seeing. So thank you so much, and thank you all for your service. We're so happy to have you, and it seems like better days are ahead.
I definitely hope so, and I know that it is. Like I said, the COVID thing has put a big enough stress on things as it is, and like I said, the past 2 years has been, it's been a struggle, just to keep our head above water. But adding 3 more officers to the department, I'm excited again about what we're going to be able to do moving forward from this point. To serve the public and things, we'll be able to do the things that the public expects us to do, because we've got additional manpower to do that with. And again, I appreciate everybody on the council and the fact that you guys recognize public safety is important and you've stepped up, and I appreciate that. Thanks again.
We do welcome you, and glad to have you. We needed you, so welcome.
Brent, how are you staying on corrections?
In the jail, as far as correction goes, we were at full staff until yesterday. We had one leave yesterday. That's not unusual. There are 18 correctional officers back in the jail, 18 positions back there. Of that 18, I believe 12 of those have less than a year's experience. I just got back from the sheriff conference up in Indianapolis last week. I don't know for sure how many sheriffs were there. They always have a sheriff talk, and they go around the room, and each sheriff gets a chance to stand up and talk about their county. I was towards the end of that list, and in the best interest of time, I told them, I said, I really can't add anything to what's already been said. The only thing I can do is echo what's already been said, and I can tell you that we are no different than anybody else. Every sheriff's department in the state of Indiana is struggling to keep police officers. They're struggling to hire police officers. They're struggling in the jail with the jail staff. Most sheriff's departments they're not up to full staff in their jails, and they're having a very difficult time getting those people. I know that Lawrence County, or not Lawrence, but Vanderbilt County told me they were doing job fairs at the local high schools to try to get kids to get into corrections and things. And I have actually tried a little bit of that with our Prosser Vocational School. There's a criminal justice program down there, and we've hired a couple of them. The problem is, a correctional facility is really not an ideal setting for an 18 or 19-year-old person. They just don't have the maturity for one, they don't have the life lessons, and those inmates are pretty hardened, and they make it very difficult on 18 and 19-year-old people. Not to mention the fact that at that age they can't carry a gun, so therefore they can't do transports for us either, and it kind of paints us in a corner with staffing to do transports, because we're burdened with quite a bit of transports that we have to do as the sheriff's department. The probation people, we transport a lot for them, and then mental health is getting to be, mental health has been a big problem for a long time. As a matter of fact, that's something that we spent 2 days talking about at the sheriff's conference, and the emergency detention orders are on the rise. We do a lot of those, and the ambulance service won't transport those people without a deputy being on board, normally speaking, and we try to do most of those transports ourselves when we can, and we spend a lot of time taking people to other counties because we don't have anywhere locally to take those people, those emergency detention orders.
So you just have one transport officer,
We do.
and we're dropping the K-9?
No, actually Paul, we replaced our K-9 officer with Paul, and Paul has a dog.
So we're back to having a dog.
We do have a dog. Toby is in your vehicle today.
He is.
He's ready for action. So we got pretty lucky there. That's another subject that I wanted to address with you today is Lenny. Lenny was our previous K-9. The county owns the dog, it's county property. if you don't need these guys anymore, I wouldn't cut these guys out. Most of these guys are night shift officers. They worked last night and get up early this morning to be here.
We'll get rid of it before we make them mad and leave.
Brent,
Have a few more things to address with you, but I'd like to cut these guys out so they can go home
I've
and
got
back
a-
to bed.
Excuse me.
great picture of your belts and behinds, and they're magnificent. Could you go ahead in front and introduce them so that I can put this on Indiana
Yes, sir.
Print?
Yes.
I mean, you know, very official, smart. It's all good.
Okay, this is Paul Riley with Sheriff's Department. He is our new K-9 officer on the department. This is K-9 Toby. We've got Gavin Hurst, Devin Hopkins, Dustin Easterday, Dawson Easterday, I'm sorry, and Dustin Pridemore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I'll get you some rest and be ready to work tonight.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes. Thanks again, guys. Lenny is the K-9 that the county owns. On average, you get about 7 years out of a police K-9. We tried to do something with Lenny. When Paul left the sheriff's department, I asked the officers, there was only one officer interested in being the K-9 officer. He's the one that left in July, before we were able to even do anything with the dog. The problem with a police K-9 like that, they become attached to their handler. And a lot of times, you can't repartner them with someone new because they may or may not attach with this new officer. However, Lenny was a very good police K-9, and we worked with the state police, the master K-9 handler that actually helped train Lenny. And he was helping us because he knew what a good, great dog Lenny was. He was helping us try to sell Lenny. We thought we had Lenny sold 3 different times, and 3 different times the deal fell through. We had a police agency down in Texas that was inquiring about Lenny, and when they found out how old Lenny was, they wasn't interested even anymore. And at one point, John Jones was trying to help us sell because he sells police vehicles everywhere. He had a police agency that was interested in buying the whole deal. They wanted the dog, the vehicle, the bike suit, everything that we had. That was just an awesome situation. I thought, this is great, we're gonna be able to sell Lenny and everything. And then that deal fell through. And so, again, when they found out what the age of the dog was, because Lenny is right at the end of his tour of duty. He's got less than a year left because of his age. And so, I don't think that we're gonna be able to do anything with Lenny. And at this point, I think that we need to probably do the right thing and retire Lenny. And so I checked with some other law enforcement agencies to see how you do that, and there is a contract that I used from some other law enforcement agencies where we could sell the dog to Paul. Paul was interested in keeping the dog. Again, like I said, I had tried to sell Lenny 3 different times, and well, more than that, but I thought we had him sold 3 times, but because of his age, he's just not marketable. You just can't sell him to anybody. And he still belongs to us, so there's still a liability there. And so we need to do something formally with this contract in order to get out from underneath that liability. Should something happen with Lenny or he do something to somebody, we want to make sure that the liability is not on Washington County. And so in this contract, it says that we're no longer liable once we sell the dog, and that Paul has to check with his insurance carrier. He has to carry additional insurance on Lenny just in the event that something would happen. So I had spoke to Paul. Paul is interested in keeping Lenny. And he did check with his insurance carrier. He has the insurance situation taken care of the things.
Is he a fighter?
Yes, he is a fight dog. He is certified fight. That's why, there's a liability there. And again, we need to make sure that we get out from underneath that liability at some point, and that's not on us anymore. Just in the event that Lenny would bite somebody. Now, Toby, the dog that Paul Riley has, is not a fight dog. He's a narcotics dog only. He's not a multi-trained dog like Lenny was. And Toby can track too. Lenny would track, do drugs, and he was a fight dog. So with an aggressive dog like that, again, a lot of police departments don't want that fight dog because it depends on what you use the dog for. If you're putting the dog into schools and things like that, probably not the best to be putting a fight dog, but Lenny was a very good, well-natured dog, and we could put Lenny in the schools and never, ever have a problem with Lenny. But, just in the event that something would happen, again, we want to make sure that we get that liability off the county so that, it doesn't fall back back on us because we're not using Lenny's services anymore. But Paul was good enough to take care of Lenny until we could figure out what we wanted to do. And I told Paul that we were gonna try to sell Lenny, and he was okay with that. And we did try, but we've not been able to successfully broker a deal. Again, because of his age, he's he's 6+ years old, and you get on average 7 years out of a police dog. So he's at the end of his tours. Again, that's something to bring up today. And I have just one other issue here about the jail.
Fred, before you move on to that, I want to make sure if there's a motion that's needed, if that's is that a council motion that would be needed or a commissioner motion?
The commissioner, thank you, Commissioner, because it's county on.
Okay, would you all like to take action before we move on?
We better wait till.
Wait till Phil gets back.
Yeah, and I can wait till Phil comes back in, because again, it is a commissioner thing, and that's how it's wrote up, and then contract has to be signed by president of the commissioners
Okay,
to do that.
okay.
Is the contract executed?
I'm sorry?
Is the contract executed?
No, it has not been. Did you need to see a copy of that, Dustin?
I'd like to see a copy. I'd like to know what's
Yes.
voting on it.
Yes, absolutely. I had one for you, I should have handed that to you. My bad. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Based on what the sheriff has given us, I'll make the motion that we follow through with this ordinance for the sale or waiver liability agreement on the canine dog.
Todd's made motion. Great, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Yeah, I just have one more issue, in the best interest of time, I would try to finish up quickly and get out of your hair, so you guys can move on. Here you go, Phil, here's the official letter. There's the next thing I wanted to discuss. It's just about, just issues there at the jail. You know, the old jail had a padded cell. We have built, I say we, back in the end of Claude's term, started Roger Hewlin's term. There was 4 additional padded cells that were built up there. Obviously, because we have a great need for them and we use them a lot, especially with all the mental health issues. They do get damaged from time to time, and we do try to hold people accountable for the damages that they do. They're in our facility. There was an inmate that specifically done $5,000 worth of damage to that one padded cell. We contracted with Indy Wall Padding out of Indianapolis. They are the cheapest around to fix that. And while we had that fixed, we also had them fix the other cell. Because again, once they get started picking at things, it just kind of unravels from there. And in order to prevent further additional damage, we went ahead to get it fixed now. And that's about an $8,000 fix to fix those padded cells, but they have been repaired. And that's what it looked like before. We do have, we have requested that the prosecutor seek restitution for damages. However, we all know it's kind of hard to get blood out of a turnip. We may or may not get restitution, but it is in place to try to get reimbursed for the damages to our padded cell.
Was this one of the new cells?
That is the old one.
This is the original?
That's the original padded cell back
Back in 84
it built in 86, yes.
or 86?
Yes. And, you know, the damage in the picture may not look that much, but again, when you're dealing with those padded cells, it doesn't take much. It's expensive to get somebody to come here. In the past, we've had a company out of Florida come up to repair those. And again, being at the sheriff conference and talking with other sheriffs, found out there was a guy in Indianapolis that does this. He's just getting started in the business, so he's a little bit cheaper than everybody else. And so some of the other sheriffs that have used him was very satisfied with his work. We had him come down and repair those, and I'm satisfied with his work as well. But I just wanted to let you know that, you know, that is a substantial amount of damage. We typically don't get that kind of damage there at the jail. But again, you know, sometimes you get those mental people in there, and if they get a little small place started, here you go. And that was a result of somebody getting a little place started on the floor and then grabbing it and just ripping the whole floor up out of the passage system. So,
Did he give you an estimate on
what's that?
it? Did he give you a written estimate?
Yes.
Okay. What's gotta be fixed?
I did fix it, Philip. I'm just letting you know that that's what it looked like. I did fix it. I did not want to wait to get that fixed, because if we let it sit there and they grab it and keep ripping on it, the estimate would have only grown and got to be more and more. So I went ahead and we got that fixed ASAP. I'm letting you know that, hey, this was the repair, and I wanted to get it fixed, because again, all you gotta do is grab it and start ripping, and then start ripping it off the walls too, and then it could have been into the, like greater than $10,000 to fix it. And they fixed all of the cells while they were here. We had some small places in the other cells. While he was here, we had to just get all 5 of them back to original, and we'll start over again on those. But the staff knows they're supposed to check those cells every time they go to put somebody in there to inspect them and document the shape that they're in. And then when they take people out of those cells, they're to inspect them again and make documentation again, so we can try to get restitution, or at least file charges on people when they destroy property there in jail.
How often do you ever get any restitution back from?
It's not very often. It's not very often, but I do make an effort to try to recover our tax dollars, you know. And we have, on the smaller things, we've had broken glass and broken TVs and things out there. We have been able to get those restitution paid on smaller dollar amounts. This one, I'm kind of worried about the dollar amount, whether they'll ever see anything on it or not. Probably not, but again, it is in place in the event that we might be able to recover something from this individual. You know, it's my jail too, it's your jail, we're all taxpayers, and I try to take care of it like it's my house. I'm gonna try to recoup money when we can to, you know, keep the taxpayers from having to pay for that.
So is your new cells holding out pretty good?
Sorry?
Latest ones we built, they holding out pretty good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, we're probably, as soon as the warm weather gets here, usually we wait till warm weather where we can open the doors and stuff and paint, because that paint, it's a pretty potent smell sometimes with that paint that you gotta use in those correctional facilities, but we do try to keep things painted in there, and on a fairly regular basis, we try to give everything a new facelift. But again, I do wanna take care of our assets there that the county owns and keep it, you know, in top shape, and we do take a lot of pride in the jail back there. And again, I said the staff, can't say enough about the staff and the job they've done since COVID started. We only had 5 initial cases out there of COVID, and that was a year ago. And then last month we ended up with another spell of COVID in our jail, and I think the nurse said we had about 10 or 15 cases, so probably about less than 24 cases total since the beginning of COVID, and nobody has had to go to the hospital for treatment. You know, we've been able to deal with everything in-house, but we still are closed to the public, and we have been since the beginning. However, I can see some light at the end of the tunnel. I think that, you know, we're going to start moving in another direction to do some other things out there, because we've had programs and everything put on ice since COVID started. You know, we started a GED program, and we had 10 people take the test, and then COVID hit, and so we've had to shut the GED program down. We'd like to get that started up again. We do have drug and alcohol classes in the jail, but again, those have been put on hold because we haven't let anybody come into the jail, and we put the REC programs and everything on hold, and everybody that comes into the jail, there's nobody that comes in up there that doesn't get their temperature checked. Any inmate that comes in gets quarantined up there for a quarantine period. After their quarantine period, we test them, make sure they don't have COVID before we put them out in the population. And because we've been doing those things, we've done a very good job of keeping it out there. I know it's kind of been a pain for a lot of people, and I know people get tired of it. I'm tired of it, but yet as a result, you know, in the end, we've been able to really keep a handle on the COVID. You know, not really had an outbreak. People call it an outbreak, but 5 people. When you got a population up there in the jail, 150 to 170, I don't really consider that an outbreak. But still, you know, we do have the overall health of our inmates has really went down the tubes in the last probably 10 years, just because of the repeated drug use of these very hard drugs, you know, heroin and meth, and And so the health issues is a battle that we fight every day up there, trying to look out for the best interests of the taxpayers and things. And we've got some inmates in there that's got some real health problems. But we partnered with Quality Correctional Care back in 2019. We brought them in. You guys partnered with us on that to get that done, and that has saved us a ton, I know, in liability issues, because before I took office up there, we had a nurse 1 hour a day, and there's just no way that you can provide medical treatment to the inmates 1 hour a day. And Quality Correctional Care provides us with a nurse Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 every day. She takes care of passing meds morning and noon, and the staff only has to do it at evening. We have a doctor that comes in every week up there that sees inmates, and we also have mental health that comes in once a week to the jail up there too. So that's been a big plus for us. It would be nice to offer more services, because there's definitely a need for them there, but there's also the cost associated with all that. And, prior to COVID, we were running about 215 in the jail. We've gotten down as low as 120. Kept it around 120, 130 for a while. Now we're running, give or take, between 150 and 170 now. But we have started to loosen up too and allow more and more arrest warrants to be served. And we're there for a while. We weren't executing misdemeanor arrest warrants unless somebody was causing a problem. But now, if we encounter them on traffic stops and stuff, we're bringing them to jail just like anybody else. So,
You went to the sheriff's convention. Did you talk to the sheriffs about how they're doing their jails?
It's kind of, I did talk to other sheriffs. I also talked to Quality Correctional Care, because they're in, I don't know, probably 60 different sheriff's departments across the state to find out what they're doing. They said a lot of people are doing a lot of different things. And I said, well, basically what I want to know is, what is your recommendation? They said, our recommendation is for you to continue doing the things that you're doing, continue to monitor the inmates when they come in, check their temperature, continue to quarantine those individuals when they come in, and continue to require masks in the jail. So again, I do think that we are going to start moving in the direction of opening the jail to allow for attorneys to come in and things like that into the jail, but they're still going to have to wear masks to come in, because obviously you can still carry the COVID even though you've been vaccinated and things, and they can still carry it back there into the jail. Some of the sheriffs that I talked to up there have opened their jails, and then they brought COVID right back into their jail, and then they turn around and shut them down again. And it's kind of like a yo-yo effect. When the COVID's gone, they'll open it up. Within a short period of time, it's back in the jail, and they shut it down again. And I don't know what the best option is at this point. Do you do the yo-yo effect, or do you just kind of still maintain the course and do the best you can? I don't know what the answer is. Like I said, a lot of sheriffs are doing different things.
We did have a relation with Harrison County on storing prisoners.
I haven't spoke to Nick in a while, but I can tell you, in being at the sheriff conference last week, there are lots of sheriffs that are looking for beds. And, there's the potential. I know even Vandenberg County is looking for beds, and that's a long way to drive from Vandenberg County to here. But I know Scott County Sheriff sat beside me up there at the conference, and I know they came over and talked to him about some beds, and he said, well, Brent probably has some beds too, and I'm sure if they're gonna come here to rent beds from Scott County, that they would rent beds from us as well.
Didn't they build a new jail down there?
They did not. What they did was they triple bunked in Harrison County.
Okay.
Yeah, they went in and triple bunked everything, and so they took their inmates back, because then they had the bunks for their inmates down there.
So, I guess it depends on COVID, when it goes away, and whether we do anything to go back to making money.
Right. Well, and I will say this too, when we're here, talking about things, because again, I love those sheriff's conferences, to get the opportunity to talk to other sheriffs and find out how they do things and stuff. And again, I find out that we're no different than anybody else, but I always like to tell them, how big is your jail? How many beds do you have? How many jail staff do you have? And I know that you guys, were good enough to give us additional jailers to take on those extra inmates from Harrison County. But even with that being said, and talking with these other sheriffs and stuff, I can tell you that we are still probably understaffed on corrections officers back there in the jail. And that's just in comparison when I talk to these other sheriffs and find out how many beds they hold inmates and how many corrections officers they have. And it's a job back there in the jail. And again, I think any sheriff in the state of Indiana would tell you this but one, because there's only one sheriff that doesn't have his own jail, but probably any sheriff in the state would tell you they'd gladly give the jail away. You know, the sheriff's job wouldn't be a bad job if you didn't have to deal with that jail. That jail is an animal all in and of itself. And it's something that you have to deal with, you know, just every single day back there in the jail, and that's just part of it. But again, you know, and we've done a really good job working with everyone to try to retain our people, you know, as far as the officers and stuff goes, but we're gonna have to continue to remember those jailers and stuff back in the jail too. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but at some point we gotta look at trying to retain some of those people in the jail. But I'm sure that most jailers probably don't say when they were growing up, I wanted to be a corrections officer when I grew up. I wanted to be a police officer, and I went to college, and out of college, you had to start somewhere, so I got hired on as a jailer at the jail. And I was a jailer for a year until I got hired on the road. Most jailers back there want to be police officers, and that's why they take that job. And I think if you polled my deputies, you would find that prior to hiring these new guys, I think 8 out of 10 deputies on our department were all corrections officers before they were deputies. Because again, you gotta start somewhere. And so you know that up front, most of those people are not gonna be long-term people. They're just not gonna stay there. They're wanting to be something else. Because I've got 4 young people back there now in the jail that all 4 of them wanna be police officers. And we hired them when they were under 21, and as soon as they turned 21, I'm confident that somebody's gonna grab those people up, and then they're gonna be replacing those people as well. And it's just an issue that may not matter what you throw at it, you're gonna continue to always have. I mean, I think we've always had that problem. It's not something that's a problem to me, it's a problem before. It'll be a problem long after me, I'm sure.
Well, I know the state has kind of, with the report of the audit of their insurance, and you had a good report for the last one. And you've been doing a heck of a good job.
Really, I will say it again, you know, my hats off to my staff back there. They do a good job back there in the jail. And every year that we've been inspected, we passed the inspection, and there's very few write-ups on there. And I know in speaking with Jerry over at Scott County, I think he said prior to him taking over there, they hadn't passed the jail inspection in several years. And I said, well, again, we start working on ours year-round, and we're looking at things, and after the jail inspector does come, we make sure that we get things fixed for the next jail inspection. And we tidy things up and make sure that we're ready for the inspection when the time comes. And we're always looking out for liability. When you find something that bites you, you want to try to take care of that, so it doesn't come back and bite you again. And so we're always trying to lessen the liability on the taxpayers and the county.
Thank you, Brent.
Yep.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, thank you for bringing in the hired officers so we had a chance to see them and welcome them.
Yep.
Thank you for all your work.
Yep. Well, thanks again. You know, I could have done that without the help of the council, and again, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the taxpayers to say thank you, because I know it's going to make a difference in how we respond to calls and things, and give an answer call at a quicker time, and make more drug arrests and solve more property crimes. It's just, you got to have the people to do it with, and we've been struggling, but I think there's light at the end of the tunnel now. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, with that, we'll go back to the additional appropriations. There is an additional appropriation request for ARP funds in the amount of $1.221 million and $451. You each should have some information about what those vendors were and the amounts as well. At this point in time, I didn't have an itemized list of what each of these were, or quotes or bids. So with that, I'll open it up to the council for discussion and whether we feel comfortable taking a vote on this today, or if this is something we'll need more information before taking a vote on. I did speak with Kyra a few moments ago, and there are letters for most of those that she can scan in and send to you in advance of another meeting.
So what was your total that's unobligated at this time? of the ARP funds?
I'm not sure on that total bid. Kyra, do you have that?
Well, we've got this ARP spreadsheet, and of course, a lot of them I know about, and, we've got the ones, got amounts obligated, and I'm looking, is there another sheet?
No, that's it.
$399,590.53.
It's how much?
$399,590.53.
So that's one.
Which takes out the ambulances and, I think I included a little bit of the, HVAC. I'm not sure when the rest of those will come due.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what about that? So basically, what that spends just what's obligated. Okay.
What's that Tate Wilson for, is a lot in there? Tate Wilson.
Jake Wilson was the engineering group that done the air conditioning, the engineer. We done without a construction manager. They're actually the ones that's overseeing the project.
With the unobligated funds, has the ARP committee and commissioners considered having a set aside for the ready projects that will be coming from the county, like the airport or some of the other projects that are within the RDA, the ready program?
Could I ask you to repeat that?
Have you all considered, the commissioners and the ARP committee considered having set aside or, do any of these amounts include any of the projects that were submitted for the ready program?
I haven't heard no projects you've come up with.
Well, the airport's one of the projects, and the city of Salem has a couple too, but the airport's in there.
Is that anything else besides that?
We have all that information.
Besides the first time, have you guys come back on the airport?
You looking at me?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Have you come back to the art, the art committee or anything, any additional besides the original?
No, the original request is still out
I
there.
mean, that's the same one we've got.
Yeah, but, that's gonna get refined, I think, based on,
So we really
what
have
happens
to
with the FAA.
appropriate everything that's out there.
There's a,
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
that's the bipartisan infrastructure bill is out there for the FAA.
But the original time, and nothing's been added to that.
Nothing's been added to that original list I handed you.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, did you also say in those requests that you were waiting on maybe grants from the FAA and?
None of the items in that list are eligible for FAA funding. Okay, for FAA grant funding. Those are all infrastructure items that are needed to help out the airport. But they're not eligible for our discretionary or supplemental funding from the FAA.
Anything else besides that?
I know the city has some projects, like the Lake Celinda project, turning it, more into like recreational, and then they had a housing project too, and that might have been some infrastructure. Not saying that the county would be expected to utilize its ARP funds for that, but it is something that when the ready I think, John, you have a project sheet from River Hills that you're working through right now with the project and writing out where the source of funds are going to come from, how they're going to get spent. So I think as you're looking at for ARP, where is this money going to go, it's important to think about where the match was going to come from locally for those projects.
The ready grants, ready funds, through the RDA are gonna be at 20%. The grant will be 20%, gotta have 20% local, then you gotta come up with 60% either, through other grants or other local funding or even private funding.
So do you have a set number on that?
That would come from John, I would think, in terms of what you're looking for a match.
Total currently is about 800,000. If you put all the projects together. But there's 11 different pieces of that request.
Okay.
That might be good to talk about tonight at the ARP meeting.
You gonna be there?
I plan to be there.
Okay.
What?
RDA meeting tonight?
ARP.
Or
So is it my understanding that on our original first 2.7, which we're due to get the other couple of months down the road here, or the last half of the ARP funds, that everything that's on this list has either been paid out or obligated, and in order to spend what's obligated, we now for this year need to reappropriate the rest of those original ARP funds in order to be able to send them on these obligated projects. Is that correct? Then I'm going to make the motion that we appropriate the funds that it takes to fulfill the commitments that have already made through obligations, which will pretty well wipe out your 2.7, I think, your original 2.7.
yes.
But we've already obligated that for what's on this list. So the question would be for me, if anybody has any questions about what's been obligated versus what we want to do, because if not, it's already been through your ARP board in order to be obligated, correct? Okay. So I'm gonna make that motion that we appropriate the funds, the existing funds, to finish out your obligations that's been approved. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Bubba. Any further discussion? I'll add, just from my own vantage point, I want to see the list of where these funds are going, whether that be quotes or letters, something in writing that's talking about where these particular funds are going and what, some sort of justification for those. So I would like more information before taking a vote on that, personally.
You can gather that at every ARP meeting.
Excuse me just a minute. These funds have already been earmarked for projects. We have 5 members of the community who are devoting and giving up of their own time without pay. They are Brock Bush, Anita Temple, Sherry Clem, Dr. Mark Manship, and former Councilman David Hoare. Back in early spring last year, the 3 of us decided that this was too big of an undertaking for 3 commissioners. And we wanted to delegate some authority and some guidance with people who what we would consider are pillars of the community. They have done an exemplary job of getting us through this.
Now, a lot of people think, well, you know, when the government hands out money, boy, that's great. Well, let me tell you, it's not all great. Now, we have not had people beating our doors down wanting this money for one reason or the other. We have had several requests. We initially focused on infrastructure, water improvements, and we're working through some of the other issues, nonprofits and things. We met twice a month up until about December, from May to December. We have got down to once a month. We're meeting every first Tuesday at 6 p.m. These meetings have been going on for a year. And why in the world would someone explain to me there has been very few people other than the three of us and these two ladies over here who have been in attendance, and now when it comes down to crunch time, when we've already earmarked this money, we're questioning whether you should approve it or not. Last minute. Now, if you doubt the judgment of the 5 people on that art board, and if you doubt the judgment of us, then I would suggest that some of you better inform yourselves and attend some of the art meetings. They put their time in with no pay. We do get paid. We're there. We've been at every meeting, 3 of us, and these ladies, trying to muddle through this and do what is best for our county. So this last minute stuff, you know, we're expected to suffer and wait because of some others' inability to plan.
I believe there's a motion on the floor. We need to vote. He made the motion, I second. It's time to vote.
Thank you.
Commissioner, you and I will say before calling for the vote, that is something that should be expected to send that sort of information to the council before the body will be approving this. With that, I will call for a vote. All of those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. All those opposed? Okay, with that, next item on the agenda, John, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Oh, I have nothing.
Okay, any comments from the council members?
Just got one.
Yes.
Budget time's up on us.
Good point. Anything else? All right, well, with that, we'll pass it on to the commissioners to continue their agenda.
Thank you very much. That being said, we need to approve the minutes and claims. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yes, sir.
Last, any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Rich made a motion, Todd second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Enjoy doing this.
Guess that's what we're gonna do here. Trent? I'm sorry.
You're Trenton's brother, right?
That's right.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Justin,
Justin, I'm sorry. Thank you.
so Trent sends his apologies. It's difficult to continue to get off work.
every couple of weeks. He works in a manufacturing trade, and, there's deadlines in that business, so he wasn't able to make it today. I was fortunate enough to be able to work a little bit extra last week, earn some comp time to be able to make it. I'm not really sure, I know the last time that we were here was just the commissioner, so I know that there's new faces here, I guess the council that I'm not familiar with. So I don't know if anybody else needs to be caught up to speed on what's going on, or.
We had worked on at the last meeting.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said, we had met since the last time with Jay Davidson, working on that way. Right now, I asked Dustin to get in contact with you. Somebody never did call him back. We're in a holding pattern with the state.
I think the problem here, though, and let me just say this. I addressed to you all originally. Obviously, I'm frustrated. I was over here praying, just trying to not come across the wrong way. I'm not trying to come across as somebody who's angry with any one individual, but if you and I, man and man, come up with an agreement, and you tell me something and you give me your word, who's responsible for that? You or somebody else? And this is a hypothetical, it has nothing to do with the situation, right?
If we was one-on-one, me and you,
Yeah,
that'd be the way it'd be. We're dealing with government.
I understand that. Hang on now, I understand that. You keep deferring back to the state of Indiana. My problem is not with the state of Indiana. You're trying to come up with a resolution from the state of Indiana that appeases everybody, and I understand that and I can respect that. The problem is, I have nothing to do with the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana is not the one who made the decision and issued the building permit that should have never been issued. The state of Indiana is not the one who gave me a verbal confirmation over the phone that said, hey, we're going to try to pursue all these other things. We're going to pursue a bill change. We're going to pursue flood evaluations. We're hiring hydrologists out of Indianapolis. We're doing everything that we can. But if all else fails, we'll make sure that you are made financially whole. And whenever I mentioned that last week, I feel like that was used against me, because since then, we've had no communication. My brother tried to reach out to Travis Elliott and just to have a conversation. He was advised to not talk to us anymore from his attorney, or just to go through Dustin from now on. But yet you all advise us not to get an attorney. You said my recommendation to you is I would not get an attorney.
I said if it was me, I wouldn't at that point, because I felt confident as me, and I said, what you do is your own business. What everyone in this room does is their own business. You're an adult, I'm an adult, okay? You do what you want to do. With what I'm being told, I was hopeful that we had it. And last night at 7:30, the bill did move to the floor of the Senate for a vote. I just talked to him this morning. It's on the floor, and I'm waiting on the Senate, but that's where I'm at. Now, Dustin Howard did try to contact you a couple weeks ago to talk to you, and nobody got back to him.
I didn't get a contact from Dustin. Maybe my brother got that, or whatever the case is.
It was his brother, not.
But,
well, I mean, okay.
But you're telling me not to get an attorney. Am I equipped to talk to Dustin Howard about the situation, or am I going to paint myself into a corner? Because I'm not an attorney. I'm trying to go at your all's recommendation and have faith. You got to understand this. This is not a situation that's been dragging on for 2 weeks. My brother has been homeless for over a year now. He's going he has mental issues already, but this is affecting his mental state of mind. How would you feel if you've been going on for over a year, there's no resolution, and the only recommendation that you can get from the governing body who issued the building permit in the first place is just wait. We're running out of time. The mortgage is going to be coming due, and there's no guarantee from anybody that if the bill does not pass, is there any other options on the table to make sure that the right thing is done here? That's something that the commissioners are. I understand you have your attorneys are tying your hands, the insurance companies are tying your hands, but you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we are responsible for the simple fact that we're the ones who signed the mortgage. And the reason that is because I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I would love for somebody to tell me what I did wrong. I called the Washington County Building Commissioner. I asked them, is this a buildable site? I handed them a map, a correct map, and they said, we don't use that map, buddy. That's the wrong map. Here's the map that we're supposed to use. And you know what they did? They gave me the wrong map and issued a building permit in an area that they weren't supposed to do. You know that that's a hardcore fact. The other part of that is, on the website that is on the Washington County Building Commission website, it lists out very plainly what the duties and responsibilities is to issue a building permit. Not all of those duties and responsibilities were followed like they were supposed to have been. So I don't have a problem with Indiana or Indianapolis or the state of Indiana. That's for you to figure out. I have a problem with Washington County Building Commissioner. They issued a building permit that was in a floodway, and by law, they should not have done that. Now they're telling me that I am financially responsible for that. My request is that you somehow make a motion or do whatever and say that, like, okay, listen, I hear you out. If this bill doesn't, and we've been told that the bill may pass and the site is still not buildable if we can't get everything to line up in terms of insurance and being able to get a mortgage on the house. There's a lot of other moving pieces that nobody is able to give us any answers to. So I would like for somebody to say, hey, listen, we're going to put it in writing and we're going to say that if we cannot come up with a solution to let this go through, you build your house and you get a mortgage on it, you get insurance and all the right things, and the house is sellable again, I would love for there to be some kind of maybe from this lady's art funds over here that she's concerned about, there's some kind of thing to say, hey, listen, Washington County dropped the ball on this and we did you all wrong. You all sell the property. Whatever your loss is, we pay you. I don't really think that that's fair, to be perfectly honest with you, to make a man be homeless for over a year and then break even on a piece of property. I don't know if there's any real estate investors here, but people don't buy property to break even on it. And we're going to hold this property for over 2 years and lose money on it. And at the end of the day, nobody cares. And it is Washington County that failed us.
Justin, I just recently became involved in this. I did email your brother on Thursday or Friday last week.
And look, I apologize. Let me interrupt you for just a second. When I came here last time, I said that my brother and I are not 100% on the same page of this, and I don't know if there's some misunderstanding about that, but that's a fact. My brother is a lot more patient and a lot more trusting in what the commissioners have said than what I am. So I think that maybe there's an element of that when communication like that is received, we handle it different ways in terms of, like, I'm kind of done dealing with this personally, but it's not my decision to make by myself because my brother's involved in this as well. So maybe that's where, the lack of communication was or whatever, so I apologize for that.
No, you're fine. It's one thing for me to say, commissioners of Washington County is exploring a resolution. Again, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the facts. I just became aware of this when you guys came to the last meeting. The commissioners have asked me to get involved. I'm trying to do that and gather the facts and figure out what's going on. But again, it's one thing for me to say we're exploring a resolution. It's another thing for these guys to say that because they're potential witnesses in any litigation and any statement they make in a public meeting, even if that statement is we're exploring all resolutions, may be deemed an admission. So, I'm going to tell or advise them not to comment any further. I would love to have a conversation with you and your brother, and you can help me understand what's going on and explore any resolution. If you have an attorney, I'm happy to speak with it.
I get so frustrated at this process because I am the type of person that a written contract doesn't mean anything to me. My handshake and my word is unbreakable. And Travis Elliott already, as far as if this was something to go to trial and witnesses or whatever the case is, If a judge asked Travis Elliott point blank, or a mediator, or whoever's the one who's gonna ask these questions, if they ask him, hey, was this your responsibility to issue this building permit? Yes. Well, let's look at the duties and responsibilities. Did you follow these to a T? His answer is gonna be no, because he did. If they ask him, did you tell Justin Wilson on the phone, and I'll look up the day that when I talked to him, it was the day before he was having a meeting with the insurance company, sometime in December, I believe. I'll look it up and figure out what day it was exactly. But if somebody asked him, did you tell Justin Wilson on the phone that if all else fails, that we're gonna work something out for you and make sure that you guys get back to break even, the only way that he can say that didn't happen is if he lies. And if he's okay lying, then, I mean, there ain't nothing I can do about that. I understand it's my word against his, but in terms of an admission or anything like that, he's already admitted all the things that, like, yeah, man, and I understand that he doesn't think that he's at fault because DNR didn't provide training and this and that, but you know, there's other surveyors and other building commissioners from other counties that I've talked to that were aware of the change, that these new maps were the ones to go off of now. You know, so I don't know why Travis wasn't schooled up on that, but he wasn't. And I want to be clear. I think Travis is a great guy. I've had conversations with him, and I've honestly prayed for Travis, because if I was in a situation where I made a mistake at work, and let me just, I don't know that he made something intentional. I don't think there was anything intentional there, but if I'd done something that I felt like there was any part of me that was responsible, that I costed somebody $300 and something thousand, that I wouldn't be able to sleep, that would bother me. And the conversations that I had with Travis, I think that it does bother him. So I don't have any ill feelings toward him personally, but the way that this is being resolved, man, is just wrong. You can't take a person and tell them, build your house, and then all of a sudden, we made a mistake, you're not allowed to build that house. It would be different if the house wasn't already built. I could understand that. I could say, okay, the house is built. It's already there. I wish I would have brought pictures of it to show you. His kids had walked through and picked out where their beds are going to go. His wife is crying over the empty laundry room that she's never going to fold clothes in. And the fact of the matter is, we've been informed that this is a county that's maybe not necessarily in the greatest of financial situations. You've got working families who are involved in their communities, involved in their churches, involved in their kids' school systems, who are wanting to move into this area and drop roots and become part of this community. And do you think that this is a good first impression that we've dealt with the Washington County, Indiana, the council here and the commissioners? Do you think that this is something I have a lot of trust and faith in this process?
Yeah, I respect that. I would appreciate it if you and Trent and I can sit down and you guys can tell me more about it, because I don't know. And if there's a claim, I need to be aware of it. So if you guys are willing to do that, even if you got an attorney, please have him contact me or sit down with me.
Yeah. The thing about it is, as far as an official claim and all that stuff, none of that stuff has happened. We have consulted with friends of families and different people that we know who, and most of the people that I know, they don't specialize in this type of law. So I'm not really getting great opinions, to be honest with you. However, I think one of the things that's important to point out is, I'm, on a sense of talking to you as a person, I'm not intimidated by you. But on a sense of talking, to you as a representative of them, I'm intimidated to talk to you because I'm not an attorney. I don't know what you know. I'm not experienced in that. And like you said, you're not going to let these guys who are obviously older and smarter and wiser than I am talk to me, because they might slip up and say something stupid. So why would I talk to you and slip up and say something stupid?
Yeah, if you don't want to, that's fine.
I mean, it's not that I don't want to. I want a resolution.
And I understand you. I respect your position, 100%. But, when I use that word claim, I know you may have a claim against Washington County. Washington County may have an insurance claim it may need to file. So I need to understand all these.
And it's frustrating too, because way back when this first started, and at this point I don't even know, August or I think September was the date that the official date. There has not really been any communication from Washington County to us. When it first happened, I talked to Travis Elliott. There has not been very much. I don't know if you're getting frustrated.
Excuse me. We need to cut this short. We're getting nowhere. In the first place, I've spoken to your brother.
Hey, no, I'm talking about
At
Travis. Can I finish this, please?
Sure.
So when I talked to Travis Elliott, I requested a meeting with Washington County Building Commissioner, DNR, and whoever was involved in telling us that we couldn't continue with this building project. And we've gotten no official notice, anything written on paper saying that we cannot proceed. So that's what I mean by we haven't had any official communication. There's been people tell us on the phone, there's been people tell us this and that, but we still don't have an official, and people have asked us that, well, what day did they tell you to stop building? We don't have an official stop build date. They never sent us anything in paper. There's not anything nailed on the build site. So that's what I'm saying.
There's a reason for that. It's a simple reason. This is a very, very complicated situation that involves the state and Washington County. And quite simply, we don't know what we don't know. This is why, unfortunately, and you're a victim, you're the one suffering.
You probably don't like that you said victim, but go ahead.
But I can assure you that the three of us and our attorney, we are very concerned. We don't like this. We're gonna do all we can to help you as much as we can. But honestly, it's somewhat out of our hands. It's a higher up thing than us. And there are things going on. And I know you've been told to be patient.
Well, man, we need a time frame. You don't understand, this loan is going to be due. What do we do? Give me an answer for what we do when the loan is due and we don't have the money to pay it. Please, somebody tell me that.
I do not know, sir. I do not know. I wish I did. Thank you.
Rick?
At the last meeting, Commissioner Ewan had asked that we check into potential funding for the ash street issue we have in the county. Contacted DNR, and we were sent to the Department of Plants and Insects. And they made us aware that there is no funding at the state level at this time. It's more of a local issue. Also, the Delaney Park Bridge we've been discussing, construction will begin on that tomorrow. Road should be closed for 2 to 3 weeks, weather permitting. Next item I have is the Mulberry Street closure, the state project. I have the paperwork here for the unofficial detour, our portion of it being Quarry Road and Orchard Road. I have that here for you to sign. I don't anticipate as much damage. Road with Quarry has been beat in the ground pretty hard over the years. Thank you, sir.
Paper?
Now, along the same lines as the unofficial detour there, I'll bring this up. This is a picture of the Franklin Bottoms Bridge off Franklin Bottoms Road. The state has a project on Highway 256, and they have requested using Franklin Bottoms as an unofficial detour. I denied that request, and I'd like to go one step further. This closure will be from April 1st till October 31st. I would like to close a section of Franklin Bottoms Road for the corresponding time, because that bridge can't, and the road itself can't handle the extra traffic. Like that road's underwater right now, and probably underwater a third of the year.
When did you say April when?
April 1st, October 31st, dates I have.
October?
Yep. There's a small structure replacement on Highway 256. Most people would be able to use I-65 from Austin to Scottsburg. It won't be that big of an inconvenience. There is a shortcut of Boatman Road, but it's underwater half the time too, so I would recommend I-65. But I don't know if we need to make any kind of motion to close the road through the summer, or just have it advertised in the paper, but we'll close it at Sexton Lane and at the Scott County line. There's no houses between that area.
Absolutely, your motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Chris made a motion, Todd second, all in favor, say aye.
Alright. You said Sexton Lane and
Scott County line, there's a bridge right at Scott
County line?
Yes. You make a motion?
All in favor, say aye, David. Aye, motion carried.
All right, next up, I have a bridge inspection contract. We have signed one contract. This has an amendment for an additional 38 load ratings.